Welcome to my channel. What if the life you want is not waiting for a miracle, but waiting behind one quiet hour you keep giving to your phone? Imagine waking up 10 years from now and meeting the person you could have become. That person knows more, earns more, thinks clearly, controls emotions, chooses friends wisely, and walks into hard rooms without fear. Then imagine hearing one painful question: why did you waste so much time? This is the question that changed Daniel. He was 28, tired, broke, distracted, and always promising himself that tomorrow would be different. He worked hard, but his money disappeared. He loved people, but trusted the wrong ones. He wanted success, but spent his evenings watching strangers build the life he wanted. One night, after another failed opportunity, Daniel sat alone and asked, "What if my biggest problem is not bad luck? What if I simply stopped learning?" That question became his turning point. The next morning, he made a rule. 1 hour every day would belong to his future. No excuses, no perfect plan, no waiting for motivation. He would learn something useful before the world could fill his mind with noise. At first, it felt almost meaningless. He read 10 pages about money, practiced the skill, watched a lesson, and wrote down one idea. Nothing magical happened. His salary did not double. His problems did not disappear. But something inside him changed. He stopped feeling helpless. Turning point 2 came when he learned that knowledge without action is only decoration. So every lesson had to become a small action. He learned budgeting and tracked every expense. He learned communication and practiced speaking clearly. He studied English and listened to simple stories every morning. He learned digital tools and created his first small project. Soon, his 1 hour became the strongest hour of his day. Then came turning point 3. Daniel discovered that education was not only about earning money, it was about becoming difficult to control. When he understood money, fear lost some power. When he understood people, manipulation became easier to notice. When he understood his emotions, anger stopped choosing his words. When he understood his time, distractions stopped owning his attention. He began to see life differently. The world had not suddenly become easier. He had become better prepared. One evening, a friend laughed at his routine. "Why study after work? You already finished school." Daniel smiled because he finally understood something his friend did not. School can end, but learning cannot. Turning point 4 arrived when Daniel faced a choice. His manager offered him extra work with no new responsibility or growth. In the past, he would have accepted silently. This time, he calmly explained what he could contribute and asked for a better role. He had learned negotiation, and knowledge gave him courage. The manager said no, but Daniel did not collapse. For the first time, rejection felt like information instead of a judgment. He began searching for a better opportunity. That night, he wrote one sentence: "I do not need to know everything. I need to keep becoming someone who can learn anything." From that day, education became his daily identity, not a temporary challenge. He started with 4 areas: money, skills, mindset, and people. He learned that money needed 3 questions: how do I earn it? How do I protect it? And how do I grow it? He stopped buying things only to impress others. He built a simple budget, reduced waste, saved regularly, and studied long-term investing from reliable sources. He did not chase fast riches. He wanted freedom. Then he chose one valuable skill instead of trying to learn everything at once. He practiced video editing for 30 minutes and studied it for another 30. His first projects were terrible, but he kept improving. Every mistake became a teacher. Every awkward attempt became evidence that he was moving. Slowly, the person who once felt stuck began building a future with his own hands. He also created a learning list for different parts of life. On Monday, he studied money. On Tuesday, communication. On Wednesday, technology. On Thursday, mindset. And on Friday, people and leadership. The weekend was for review and practice. This simple rhythm stopped him from feeling overwhelmed. He did not consume information randomly anymore. He asked 3 questions before learning anything. Is this useful? Can I practice it? Can I use it to help someone? If the answer was yes, he continued. If not, he moved on. This was another small turning point because he stopped collecting facts and started collecting abilities. He also learned that reading alone could create the feeling of progress without real progress. So he closed the book and built something. He watched a lesson and explained it in his own words. He learned a financial idea and applied it to his budget. He studied communication and used it in a real conversation. Slowly, learning became visible in his life. Months passed, and Daniel noticed something strange. The biggest change was not in his bank account, it was in the way he responded to problems. Turning point 5 came when a client rejected his work after weeks of effort. Old Daniel would have taken it personally, complained, and quit. New Daniel opened his notebook and wrote, "What can this rejection teach me?" He studied the feedback, found 3 weak areas, and practiced them. The rejection that once looked like a wall became a map. He learned a powerful rule. When life gives you a problem, ask a better question before you ask for an easier life. This changed his mindset. He stopped saying, "Why me?" and started asking, "What now?" That small change made him calmer and more useful. Turning point 6 came through emotional education. Daniel realized that intelligence means little if anger can control your mouth, fear can control your choices, and sadness can control your future. He began practicing a simple pause. When someone upset him, he waited before replying. He named the feeling, found the reason, and chose his response. Some days he failed. He still became angry. He still overthought. But he stopped treating every emotion like an order. He learned that feelings are signals, not commands. His relationships slowly improved because he listened more and reacted less. He also learned boundaries. He could be kind without saying yes to everything. He could forgive without giving everyone unlimited access to his life. Turning point 7 came when Daniel started studying the market. He asked a different question. What problems are people willing to pay to solve? Instead of learning random skills, he watched businesses, creators, and small companies. He noticed that many needed simple video editing, social media content, and digital design. He practiced those services and began offering them. His first payment was small, but it felt enormous because he had turned learning into value. He finally understood that people rarely pay for effort alone, they pay for useful results. This did not make him desperate to become rich. It made him responsible for becoming useful. Turning point 8 arrived when technology changed his workplace. A task he had performed for years became automated. Several coworkers panicked. Daniel felt fear too, but he had already built a learning habit. Instead of asking, "How do I protect my old job?" he asked, "What new tools can make me valuable?" He learned AI assistance, design software, online collaboration, and basic automation. He did not try to become a programmer overnight. He simply became comfortable enough with modern tools to work faster and think better. Within months, his manager noticed. Daniel was no longer the employee who only completed instructions. He was the employee who found better ways to complete them. Then came turning point 9. Daniel realized that knowing the world was not enough. He needed to know himself. He began journaling every night. He wrote about what gave him energy, what drained him, what made him insecure, and what choices he kept repeating. One pattern shocked him. He often chased approval because he was afraid of disappointing people. He had accepted jobs, friendships, and commitments that looked good from outside but felt wrong inside. Once he saw the pattern, he could change it. He began saying no without long explanations. He stopped comparing his journey with strangers online. He learned that self-awareness is not selfishness. It is the foundation of wise decisions. As Daniel became more aware, his confidence became quieter. He no longer needed everyone to understand him. He only needed to understand himself well enough to choose his direction. Daniel also discovered that attention was a form of wealth. Every time he gave an hour to endless scrolling, he was not only losing minutes, he was giving away a piece of his future. So he changed his environment. He removed distracting apps, kept his phone away during study, and told friends about his learning hour. Some people joked about it, but he did not need their approval. He began protecting his attention because he understood that whatever controls your attention can influence your life. He also stopped trying to learn from everyone. He looked for clear teachers, strong books, practical examples, and real experience. He learned to compare ideas instead of blindly accepting them. This made him more independent. He could listen without surrendering his judgment. That became another quiet source of confidence. 1 year after beginning his 1 hour rule, Daniel faced the hardest test yet. A close friend betrayed his trust and took credit for a project Daniel had built. The old version of him would have exploded. The new version stopped, breathed, and studied the situation. Turning point 10 came when he learned the difference between kindness and naivety. He did not become cold. He became careful. He watched patterns instead of promises. He learned to trust slowly, protect his work, document agreements, and keep healthy boundaries. He realized that wisdom does not mean expecting everyone to be good. It means staying good while becoming aware. Turning point 11 came when his father became seriously worried about Daniel's future and asked, "Are you sure this learning is taking you anywhere?" Daniel did not argue. He showed him the skills he had built, the money he had saved, the clients he had helped, and the opportunities he had created. His father finally understood that education was producing visible results. Daniel had stopped waiting for permission to grow. He had become responsible for his own direction. Turning point 12 arrived during a financial setback. Two clients disappeared in the same week, and an unexpected expense emptied much of his savings. For one night, fear returned. But this time, fear did not own him. He had an emergency fund, multiple skills, and a habit of learning. He reviewed his budget, contacted potential clients, improved his portfolio, and made a plan. The problem was real, but it was no longer bigger than his ability to respond. This was when Daniel understood why education is powerful. It does not promise a life without storms. It teaches you how to build a stronger boat. Turning point 13 came when Daniel began teaching others. A younger coworker asked how he had changed so much. Daniel shared his 1 hour method: 20 minutes learning, 20 minutes practicing, 10 minutes writing what he understood, and 10 minutes planning how to use it. He told her not to chase 10 goals at once. Choose one useful subject, study it deeply, practice it daily, and let time multiply the effort. As he taught, Daniel learned even more. Explaining ideas forced him to think clearly. Helping others reminded him how far he had traveled. His confidence grew without arrogance because he knew he was still a student. Turning point 14 came when Daniel received an opportunity he once believed was impossible. A growing company offered him a leadership role because they had seen his ability to solve problems, learn quickly, communicate calmly, and adapt to change. Years earlier, Daniel would have thought success meant getting lucky. Now, he understood that opportunity often visits people who are prepared enough to recognize it. He accepted the role, but he kept the 1 hour rule. He knew the danger of success. The moment you believe you have learned enough, you begin falling behind. He studied leadership, negotiation, technology, finance, and human behavior. He listened to people below him, not only those above him. He made mistakes as a leader, apologized when needed, and improved systems instead of blaming people. His life was not perfect, but it was intentional. Then came the final turning point, number 15. One morning, Daniel found his old notebook from the night he had asked, "What if my biggest problem is that I stopped learning?" He read the sentence again. He realized the greatest transformation was not that he had become rich, powerful, or admired. He had become responsible. He no longer waited for life to teach him through pain. He studied before the pain arrived. He prepared before the opportunity appeared. He reflected before repeating mistakes. He learned before demanding results. And that was the real secret. Daily education had changed the person making the decisions. And when the person changes, the future changes with them. He made mistakes during this journey. Sometimes he studied for 2 hours and did nothing with what he learned. Sometimes he bought things he did not need. Sometimes he reacted badly and regretted his words. Sometimes he felt tired and skipped his routine. But he stopped using mistakes as proof that he could not change. He used them as feedback. His notebook became a record of lessons, not a list of excuses. He wrote, "What happened? What did I control? What will I do differently?" This habit made failure less frightening. He understood that a strong person is not someone who never struggles. A strong person is someone who can look honestly at a struggle and learn from it without losing hope. That mindset made every difficult season useful. He made his learning simple again. He stopped trying to impress people with complicated knowledge and focused on becoming useful in ordinary situations. He practiced speaking clearly, solving problems, managing time, and keeping promises. He realized that wisdom is often quiet. It appears when someone remains calm during pressure, keeps learning after success, and chooses long-term results over short-term comfort. Daniel was no longer chasing a version of success he had seen online. He was building a life that made sense to him. Now, Daniel's story becomes your question. What will you do with the next hour? You do not need a perfect library, expensive course, or special background. You need curiosity, discipline, and a decision. Start with money. Learn how to budget, save, avoid harmful debt, and understand long-term investing. Then learn one skill that solves a real problem. It might be writing, editing, design, sales, communication, coding, teaching, or another useful ability. Practice it instead of only watching videos about it. Then train your mind. Learn how to focus, delay pleasure, handle failure, and think beyond today. Train your emotions. Notice what triggers you. Pause before reacting. Choose responses that protect your future. Study people. Learn to recognize healthy relationships, poor boundaries, pressure, manipulation, and honest communication. Study the market. Ask what people need, what businesses struggle with, and what skills are becoming more valuable. Study technology. Learn the tools that can make your work faster and open new opportunities. Most importantly, study yourself. Ask what you value, what you fear, what you keep avoiding, and what kind of person you want to become. You do not need to master all of this in 1 week. Your goal is not to become a different person tomorrow. Your goal is to become 1% wiser today. Imagine doing that for 1 year. 365 small decisions. 365 lessons. Hundreds of hours invested in your own mind. While other people may spend that time scrolling, complaining, comparing, and waiting, you will be building. Remember Daniel's first lesson? Knowledge must become action. So, after this video, do not simply feel inspired for 10 minutes and return to the same habits. Open a notebook, write one subject you need to learn, choose 1 hour tomorrow, put your phone away, study for 20 minutes, practice for 20 minutes, write for 10 minutes, plan for 10 minutes, then repeat. If you miss a day, do not call yourself a failure. Restart the next day. Consistency is not never falling. It is refusing to stay down. And here is the warning. The world will always offer you something easier than growth. Your phone will offer endless entertainment. Other people will offer opinions. Fear will offer excuses. Comfort will tell you that tomorrow is better. But tomorrow is built from what you do today. The strongest person in the room is not always the loudest. Sometimes it is the person who knows when to listen, when to learn, when to stay calm, and when to act. You do not need to know everything. You only need to remain teachable, because technology will change, jobs will change, markets will change, relationships will change, your age will change, but the ability to learn will travel with you everywhere. That ability can help you rebuild after failure, adapt after change, and rise after disappointment. So, if you feel behind, learn. If you feel confused, learn. If you feel afraid, learn. If you made a mistake, learn. If you succeeded, learn again. Never let success make you careless or failure make you hopeless. Let both become teachers. Your future self is not asking for perfection. Your future self is asking for preparation. One day, You may look back at this moment and realize that the biggest change began quietly with one decision and 1 hour. Daniel thought he was trying to change his life. In reality, he was changing the person capable of living that life. That is what self-education does. It gives you better questions, stronger skills, calmer choices, wider vision, and more control over your direction. So choose today. Will you scroll or study? Will you complain or solve? Will you react or reflect? Will you wait for someone to save you? Or will you become the person who can save your future through better decisions? Your life will not be transformed by one video. It will be transformed by what you do after the video ends. Start with one page, one lesson, one skill, one honest reflection, 1 hour. Protect that hour like your future depends on it, because it does. Learn daily, practice daily, think daily, and grow daily. You are not too late. You are not too ordinary. You are not trapped by yesterday. You can become stronger, wiser, and more useful than you are today. The first step is learn something that your future self will thank you for. And when you are ready, take another step, then another. Keep going until the person you once dreamed about becomes the person you see in the mirror. If this story gave you a reason to start, stay with this channel, because every lesson you learn can become another brick in the life you are building. Your future is watching. Give it something worth watching. The goal is simple. Become the person who is ready when opportunity finally knocks at your door. Do not chase a perfect life. Build a prepared mind, a useful skill, a steady heart, and a clear direction.